This is Pete Jones, and you are listening to the Dragons Are Real podcast. In today's episode, I'm going to talk about Lord of the Rings Journeys into Middle-earth, which is a new board game by Fantasy Flight Games. But before I get on to that, I have a call-in.
Hi Pete, this is Norbert. I'm the author of the Minimal D6 game. Thanks a lot for boosting its reach, man. Thanks a lot. We're still playing it. In reality, we're playing Minimal D6 and games based on it almost on an exclusive basis, because we're all huge fans of for rules-like games. We're all fathers. Time is really precious. and I'm personally really heavily invested in proto-RPG type of games. Games that came before D&D, and Minimal D6 is a game that goes in that direction, because everything is open to interpretation and you have to actually negotiate at the table what things mean. I like that a lot. So thanks again for talking about Minimal D6. Thank you.
That was Norbert, the author of Minimal D6, and you can check out my previous episode on Minimal D6. So thanks for calling in, Norbert. It's always good to support small game designers, and especially game designers that put out free games to the community. So thanks for that. Now on to this episode. This episode was recorded as I walked my dog Amber, and Amber appears in the background with some panting, but enjoy it anyway. So today I'm recording this episode as I take the dog for a walk. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Wales. At the weekend I went down to Beer and Pretzels show, which is held in Burton-on-Trent and run by Phil and Sally from Spirit Games. It's a show where you can go and play games for a couple of days, and it's a good time. Go down with some mates, have a few beers, have a few meals out, and play some games that maybe we wouldn't play normally. So at the weekend we played Lord of the Rings Journey into Middle-earth. It's a new game by Fantasy Flight, based on their Mansions of Madness. You require an app to run the game, and basically it's set between the Hobbit and Fellowship of the Ring. And you pick one of the 6 characters available. You get a set of cards for the character you play, and then you pick one of 6 rolls, and you get some more cards for it. And the map is set out by the app. And the beauty of it is it's randomised, so every time you play the same scenario, it's different. I've played the first scenario 4 times now, with either solo or with different groups, and I can confirm, yes, the gameplay is completely different each time. The enemies that are spawned, sometimes they're stronger, sometimes they're weaker, sometimes they're more, sometimes they're less. So you never get the same enemies coming out at the same time. There's also events that occur, and those are randomised as well. Sometimes they come out in the same, and sometimes they don't. So that's a good different feel about it. And the app takes away a lot of the heavy load. So it's a co-op game, so we're all on the same side. So there are no dice in the game. You play cards from your hand for abilities and to try and get successes. And each success on the cards either goes to beat an attempt or a test, or you pile up successes on the app. So some tasks require you to get multiple successes. Similarly, combat is dealt in the same way. You draw a number of cards equal to one of your core skills, looking for successes, and each success on it causes a number of hits. You can stack these hits up. The characters all feel very different. They've all got different abilities, and the way you work together is really gives it a real good feel. And we played 6, 7 scenarios. And something I like to it over Gloomhaven, for example, is if you fail at a scenario, you don't have to go back and replay it as you do in Gloomhaven and keep replaying it to get it right. You lose, but you move on to the next scenario, and because you've lost, some bad things may happen to you. What you don't get is good. Between adventures, you get XP, which is called lore, and you can spend lore on upgrading your abilities and adding new cards to your hand, like in all good games. There's items you can get hold of which help you on the way. So all in all, I was very impressed with the game. The lads seemed to enjoy it as well. Well, they played 7 games of it, so I'm pretty sure they did enjoy it. So that was the main game we played over the weekend. So can I recommend Journeys to Middle-earth? Yes, I certainly can. I got it for £61 pre-order. I think recommended retail is about £89, which is a bit steep. Nice minis in the box. I can see, being Fantasy Flight, there's going to be lots of expansions. The first expansion has been announced, which is 3 figures, some more cards, so probably more enemies to fight. And I can also see digital expansions as well. At the moment there's 1 campaign, and that's it. I can see them be selling more campaigns, and if they're as good as the first one, well, I'll be in for that. One downside to the game that I can think of is you can't play one-off scenarios. You start the campaign, and if you start with a new group or a new bunch of people, then you have to start from the campaign again. It'd be nice if they did some one-off scenarios just for people to try, or sometimes on a game night where you just want to have a couple of hours of fun, you can play scenarios, so maybe that will be added to it in future. So that was my views on Journeys into Middle-earth whilst walking the dog. So getting some lovely exercise and managing to talk to lovely people out there. Whilst I was out, I also recorded my thoughts about the Year Zero engine by Free League, so let's listen to that. I backed the Free League game, Forbidden Lands role-playing game, and as part of the Kickstarter they promised to release the core rules as an open game license, and this week they went in and did it. So now I don't think it's been opened up to non-backers yet, as they're still making corrections. But what this means is now, the OGL, you can write your own games for their, what was they calling it, the Year Zero engine. It's a dice pool system. I love dice pools. My favourite being Star Wars D6, great game that. And the way it works in Year Zero is you have a number of dice for your attributes. You have different coloured dice for any skills that might be applicable, and different coloured dice for any gear that may benefit you. And you roll your dice pool, and you're looking for any sixes as successes. And the beauty of the dice system is, if you're in combat for example, and any success comes from your gear, you can say that it was the might of your sword that caused the injury. Whereas if it was from your fighting skill, you could say it was your skill with the sword that did it. And the same with other skills. If you're doing some lock picking, you have some lock picks which give you dice, and if that comes up as a success, it helps with the narration of how you succeeded. If you do fail, you've always got the option of pushing it. And basically, you can pick up all the dice that don't roll ones to try and better the score you've received. The downside is you can't pick up the ones, although they didn't count as bad for you at this time, they will count bad for you when you re-roll, because you've already rolled them, and then you have further ones. And what these ones mean is it can affect your attributes, it can affect the story, or if your gear dice roll ones, your gear takes a use. It's a bit like the usage dice in Black Hack. So gear takes some use, and when the number of uses for your gear has been used, that gear is no longer useful to you. So they've released the OGL, and I'm very tempted to write something now for the Year Zero engine. So character creation is a point-based system, and depending on your archetype, you can buy some more points in certain attributes and skills which are listed in your archetype. Also in character creation, Characters can have dark secrets, relationships, and pride, which helps develop the character before you start playing. And these are quite key into the role-playing process with Year Zero engine. It encourages people to follow these relationships or their pride, and as the game progresses and you get XP, you can change them. So it's a good little system, and according to Free League, when they release their guild on drive-thru, you'll be able to publish your own games using the Year Zero engine and sell them as well, which is good. I can see a few hacks coming along. Excuse me. A few hacks to play certain games. But if you want to sell anything or put it on drive-thru, then you're going to have to be careful not to tread on people's IP, as always. So, that's it for now.
You've been listening to the Dragons Are Real podcast. You can contact me by leaving a message via the Anchor app or visit the podcast website, petejones.neocity.org, or on OSR Anchorites at the Audio Dungeon Discord. Thanks for listening. The opening music is Siesta by Desar. The closing music is Controlled Distress by BizBaz Studio.